Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my feel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood, so I am relentless.
We're here, the Keep Hammering Collective, with Nick Bear. How you doing?
I'm great. It's been a good day. It's been a great day.
Yeah.
So I'm doing excellent right now.
We've had a big day. So Nick came in. We had one day to make this happen. We got our lift, run, shoot done, and now we're getting the podcast done. And dude, you've been like one of my most requested guests. I mean, people have been saying, when's Nick coming on? When Nick Bear coming on? Let's see you guys train. And so we made it happen.
You know, we linked up that one time in Austin. It was quick.
Yeah.
And there was a segment of us running in a YouTube video I put out there. I think it was like 60 seconds of a YouTube video.
Right.
That's all we got done that one day.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we were able to make something bigger happen.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, I'm just happy you're here. I'm happy I could share the day with you because I've been watching from afar. I've been a follower for a while, and getting down there to Austin when my book came out was cool. And you had me on your podcast, and it meant a lot because it did reach a lot of people, like in a different, a different crowd than follow me generally. It's a lot of hunters for me. You have a lot of fitness people. And so it was cool to share my story with your followers, and it was awesome. I appreciated it, so wanted to get you here, and I think we made the most of it today.
We got a lot done. I mean, we logged 20 miles in the morning, went shooting, shot the balloon.
Yeah.
Which I'm psyched about.
100 yards.
100 yards.
Yeah, that's not easy.
But no, it was an epic day.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you earlier, me and Steph have been talking about like our next chapter and phase of life. Mm-hmm. And I need a hobby.
Yeah.
I want something to do. And when I met Steph, she was a bow hunter.
Right.
And she has a history of bow hunting. And it's something I always said I wanted to get into at some point. But today kind of facilitated that
and solidified that want and need, desire, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I hit that balloon, I was hooked, like I was telling you.
Yeah. No, it was, because we've been out there for a little while, beautiful day in the sun, and there's something about when you can see that visual, the balloon popping, and it's from a arrow you released. It's like, man, it's hard not to be pumped.
Well, it kind of made me think of, I had this bodybuilding show a few weeks ago, and when I got on stage, I didn't expect this to happen, but this rush of adrenaline came over me. You know, you like, there's moments in your life, there's things that you do where you get this rush of adrenaline that you didn't expect, but it wakes you up,
right?
And you're submerged in that moment. I didn't expect it going into that bodybuilding show a few weeks ago, but when I stepped on stage, I had this experience and this feeling, same exact feeling when I hit that balloon today.
Awesome.
Where it's like, you don't know what's coming, you don't expect it, and then it happens, and it's like, adrenaline and dopamine just drops into your blood. Yeah. It was a good feeling.
Oh, it was great. I was as pumped as you. That's so fun. Speaking of your bodybuilding show, does this shirt look too big on me or do I look too jacked?
It's a perfect fit.
From the Baby Gap.
I mean, that's
what Tanner just said.
If you don't have to be functional for the moment and you're just sitting down, Baby Gap size is like an appropriate size.
Okay. Well, supposedly I have to wear it because it's probably a sponsor shirt. So Rihanna's making me. Well, it's kind of funny that it's Black Rifle. That's kind of odd. So we talked about your next phase of life you mentioned and the recent bodybuilding show, but I want to hear about how did Nick Bear become Nick Bear? I mean, how did you go from a kid from Pennsylvania to this whole journey, and now it's like Bear Performance Nutrition, that's a multi-million-dollar company. How does that happen?
So I was going to school in Western Pennsylvania studying nutrition. This was 2009 when I started going to school.
Okay.
What sparked my interest in studying and learning more about nutrition is when I was 14 years old, I had a severe eating disorder. Had me hospitalized. I was starving myself. Nearly killed me. And then as I kind of built healthy relationships with food again after that eating disorder, I fell in love with fitness and training and supplementation and nutrition. And that's what drove me to study nutrition in school. And I was also on an Army ROTC scholarship at the time. So I knew immediately upon graduating from college, I was going active duty Army. And what's interesting is between my junior and senior year of school, the Military Associated Bank, USAA, offers what they call a pre-commissioning loan. So cadets who were going to commission into the Army as officers, they knew we were going to have a locked-in salary upon graduating, and we could take up to $25,000 out. Super low interest rate. It was like 1%. You didn't make any payments for 18 months. So all my friends were taking out this loan. They're buying engagement rings. They're going on vacation. They're buying new cars. And I was like, this
Good
is my
investments.
It's like, this is my golden ticket. This is how I'm going to start my business.
Yeah.
And, up until that point, I was actually making my own supplements in my dorm room. So I'd buy these ingredients in bulk. I'd weigh them out on a food scale. I'd sell them to friends in my dorm. So like if you walked into my college dorm, I looked like a drug dealer.
Yeah.
I got white powder everywhere. I got a scale. People are coming to my door. I'm handing them a baggie. They're giving me $5. But that loan was the opportunity for me to find a manufacturer and then start my company. And I told my dad I was going to make $1 million that first year.
Yeah.
Ended up making $20,000.
Just short.
Just short. And he
But
said,
you made money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I made money, but it was 50% off discounts to friends and family.
Right.
I knew this loan payment was coming up here shortly. And I'll never forget the day when I told my dad I was going to make $1 million. And he said, Nick, if it was that easy, everyone would do it. I said, I'm going to prove you wrong. So year one, $20,000 in revenue. Year two, about $20,000 in revenue. Year three, about $20,000 in revenue. And now in our headquarters, I have plaster on the wall. If it were that easy, everyone would do it, which I'm sure you can relate to.
Yep.
So I start this company. I graduate college. I go into the Army. I'm in Fort Benning, Georgia for a year.
Was it called Bear Performance Nutrition?
Yeah, it's called Bear Performance Nutrition. Okay. I remember sitting in my college dorm room trying to think of a name. I had this list, and I was going through all these things, and nothing was sticking. And I was like, you know what? My last name, Bear, kind of works well for supplements. Natural, clean, minimal. Bear Performance Nutrition, BPN. Let's roll with that.
Yeah, it's got a good ring to it.
Yeah, so I rolled with that and graduated college, ended up in Fort Benning, Georgia for a year of training. And then I got stationed in Texas. And when we got to Texas, it was 2014. This is actually when I started creating content for social media. So, a lot of people that build social media brands, they build a brand, personal brand, and then it's, well, how do I monetize?
Right.
I did it the other way around. I built a brand, realized it wasn't making money, and I thought, how do I build a community and monetize this business, grow it? So I started documenting my life on social media and sharing my experience in the Army and training, nutrition, and building a business and bootstrapping it. And these platforms slowly started to grow organically. So it was 2014. Fitness industry was completely different than it is today. And from that point until today, I've been creating content, sharing my story, building a community, sharing training experiences for triathlons and Ironmans and ultras and marathons and bodybuilding shows, And to get to this point, it was a lot of work.
Right.
It was a lot of work. It was very difficult. There were a lot of losses. There were some wins, a lot of failures. But if I look back, like 2012 to now, coming up on 11 years of building this business, it went fast. And it feels like it was yesterday. And I always look back to 2017. 2017 was the year I transitioned out of the Army. It was the year I went all in on BPN, full-time entrepreneur. There were 3 of us at that point, me, my brother, my friend Joe, who's still with the business today. 2017 was the most exciting year of my life. It was the hardest year of my life. Cash flow was a nightmare. Couldn't sleep because I was maxed out on stress. But every single day felt like Christmas. And that's the year I realized I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. This is where a lot of my passion and purpose is at. So over the last couple of years, my content has shifted. I started the business as performance training and strength training and bodybuilding, and kind of that's where I found my love of fitness. And then in 2018, I discovered endurance. I signed up for my first couple of marathons, then an Ironman, then these ultras, and my last marathon was this past May. And just documenting that process and sharing that journey has connected with a lot of people, and it's helped a lot of people reach their goals. And being authentic and vulnerable and real and sharing this process has brought a lot of people into the fold. And I'm grateful for the opportunities that we've created through that hard work and struggle. But that's how I got to, where I'm at today. It's over a decade in the making. But it's been a crazy fun journey.
What's been the biggest challenge of that? Because everybody sees how you're doing now, and you got this brand, you're getting close to 1 million followers on Instagram. You're, when people say, oh, who you having on the podcast next? And I'm like, Nick Bear. He's like this fitness guy. Oh, yeah, I know him. So now it seems all good, right? What was the hardest part of that 11-year journey?
I mean, there's a lot, but if I think about one thing that I learned that I think other people can implement into their life, it's, you get started with this passion project, this purpose, this idea of what you want to create and how you want to create it. And it's really true and authentic to yourself. And the longer you do it and you start achieving some wins and some success, it's really easy to be guided in the wrong direction. These white rabbits pop up left and right and here and there, and it's easy to chase them.
You mean guided or just naturally go that way?
Naturally go that way. Okay. Say you get started and you see another creator that is following certain trends and it's working for them. It's really easy to follow that way. Or you see another business following a blueprint and it's working for them, and it's really easy to try to implement that blueprint into your business, thinking it's going to recreate the same results. But if you can set your trajectory and you're really honest with yourself and about who you are and who you want to serve and how you want to serve them and what you want to create and what makes you unique and special, and you stay on that path, I think that's one of the most difficult things to do, but it's the most rewarding thing. And, over this last decade plus, there have been things where I've felt the need to chase or recreate that someone else has been doing that has led them to success. But every time I've tried to chase those things or objectives or strategies, it's been a dead end. And sometimes you just have to trust your gut. Your gut is your guiding light for where you want to go. But being authentic and real and honest with yourself throughout the journey, it's tough, but it's essential.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. And I think, that seeing what other people do and you're trying to get that mark of success, which is, a post is popular or getting the engagement you want, and you see that they did it. It is probably difficult for a lot of people to say, I need to try that. Then you see a lot of, there's nothing as good as the first version, and there's nothing authentic when you're copying somebody, right? And so it's, I get what you're saying there. And I see a lot of people make that same mistake also. I was curious, you started that a few minutes ago mentioning you had an eating disorder. So what you hear about girls having eating disorders, but I think more people than might realize there are guys that have it too, or young men. So what was that with you?
I think the older I get, the more curious I become of why I actually had an eating disorder when I was younger. Growing up, I never thought I was overweight. I didn't necessarily want to lose weight. And this is probably something that I should talk to a therapist or a specialist about, because I'm actually curious. What was it in my life that triggered these thoughts or feelings to starve myself? Because that's what I was doing. I was starving myself.
You thought you were overweight?
I didn't think I was overweight. But what I think it was is I wanted to control an aspect of my life. And be in complete control.
Right.
And this is just like a thought. I'm not really sure. But if I look back to when I was 14 and I started just restricting food more and more and more, it was this fulfillment I got out of the control of what I was putting in my body, how much weight I was losing, how weak I started to feel. And I kind of fell in love with that feeling. And I got super weak, very, very weak. And my parents, I remember like it was yesterday, they would pick me up at school and they'd drive me to the Hershey Medical Center and we'd do all these tests and doctors were trying to figure out what was going on with me.
And you weren't telling them that you weren't eating?
Oh, no.
Right.
You can get really creative in ways to hide this from people, it's interesting now that I've had that experience. I'm pretty good at identifying when people have unhealthy relationships with foods or eating disorders. It's pretty obvious, just some of the signs. My parents would pick me up at school, take me to doctors. The doctors would run all these tests. They thought I had celiac disease. They thought I had a stomach ulcer. Or they thought I picked up a worm in a recent vacation overseas, trying to figure out what was going on. I was doing all these tests, and I knew deep down I was starving myself, and I just kept going along with it. I just played the game, and this went on for months, and I got so weak to the point where I couldn't even get out of bed to go to school anymore. I was probably consuming maybe 500 calories a day, and I remember the last trip we made to the Hershey Medical Center, we pull into the outpatient clinic, and we pull up to this building, and it says eating disorder clinic. And I was like, oh, fuck.
They figured me out.
Yeah. My mom walks me up these stairs, and this doctor confronts me. And that was all I needed. I just needed someone to catch me.
Right.
And I remember coming home from that appointment, telling myself, okay, like you gotta start eating more. And I went into our pantry and I pulled out this box of Pop-Tarts and I flip it around and it says 400 calories and 2 Pop-Tarts. And I'm thinking, holy shit, I haven't consumed 400 calories a day probably for weeks. I forced down these 2 Pop-Tarts, which was extremely difficult mentally. And from there, I just slowly started to try to incorporate more food. I mean, it took months and years to build healthy relationships with food again. But it was hard to get over, but it was when I got caught, it flipped a switch instantly. And I know there's a lot of people probably listening who might have unhealthy relationships with food or have struggled with eating disorders for a long, long time. And the fix isn't always that easy. It's rarely that easy, but for some reason that clicks for me.
What advice do you give to people who have eating disorders? I mean, what could have helped you?
I mean, I think the only advice I really can give is try to get help. Try to. And one of the reasons I share this story, because I used to hide this for a long time, because I saw it as a weakness, and I was embarrassed. And then when I started sharing this story, so many people reached out to me saying, I'm going through the same thing. I'm going through something similar. I needed to hear this. I don't necessarily need advice, but I needed to know I wasn't doing this alone. And there's been times where parents have reached out to me saying, hey, my 14-year-old son's in the hospital right now. Can you just hop on a call with him and tell him like your story and how you got over this thing? So that's why I share it now, is because I know it helps a lot of people and there's a lot going through it. But I think the best piece of advice is you got to find some help, some medical.
Talk to somebody, tell somebody.
Yeah, you got to get some medical professional help, because if you have someone who's holding you accountable, they're going to make sure you're gaining weight. They're going to make sure you're eating. And it's finding ways to build these healthy relationships with food again. Because now I look at food in terms of fueling my body and food is medicine. But it wasn't always that way.
Right. And so do you think that was an evolution of your life, basically, to accept that food, you said, is medicine, and you know how food affects performance now. So do you think that going through that makes you more passionate about where you are now and following the diets you do now, and just knowing that everything you put in your body serves a purpose, essentially? Do you think it's played in for a positive?
100%. Yeah, because I'm constantly thinking from the time I wake up, what can I put in my body to make it feel really good? What can I put in my body to make sure it's fueled? this morning, like whenever people tell me they forgot to eat, I'm like, I don't get that because, you know, I'm a guy who likes to plan. I backwards plan. Probably learned that in the military and implemented it into my life. But clear example is knowing we were going to log a bunch of miles this morning. Some people might wake up and not eat anything, or maybe grab a banana or like an apple and head out the door. You know, I like set my alarm extra early, went downstairs, make sure I could get some oatmeal, some fruit, some eggs, some orange juice in, and like get the fuel in that I'm going to need to run 20 miles for that morning. So I'm constantly thinking, like, what am I going to need for my day ahead to fuel myself so I can perform, so I can act, so I can function?
Right.
And then what kind of quality foods are going to help me feel the best? So like that's the way I look at food now in terms of what's the highest quality, best sourced food that's going to optimize the way I feel.
And now, since you're so performance based, what is the best food for performance? If you're talking, I mean, I think it seems like recently you've been more endurance focused. I know you just did that show, but prior to that, you mentioned, you know, the ultras and the marathons and the triathlons. So what have you found that's worked best for endurance?
I know there's a lot of people that like high carb, but now these fat adapted endurance athletes are becoming more popular. Like the Zach Bitters,
Right.
Are training for these long endurance efforts on a ketogenic diet, which makes sense. When you can become more efficient at utilizing fat stores in the body, you're not going to tap into your muscle glycogen as quickly, or you're not going to need as much glucose to fuel performance. I've never really dove into the keto space because it's just not sustainable for my life, my training, and, you know, I like carbs personally.
I don't see any of those guys that have the muscle you have. I mean,
Yes. So
your body composition would change.
it would. It definitely would. And the way that I train with endurance and strength training, like my diet is as much whole food, nutrient dense food sources as possible. Like my breakfast in the morning is pasture raised, fresh farm eggs I get from a local farmer. I do some sourdough sometimes. I'll do a fruit or oatmeal. My lunch is always potatoes or rice and ground beef, elk or chicken. In the afternoon, I'll do like a protein shake with some Greek yogurt, some berries, some honey, some nut butter. Dinner is probably like a steak and potatoes and some vegetables or a salad. And I might have something before going to bed. And that's like most of my diet.
And how many calories would that be about?
Right now, I'm probably consuming 3,500 calories a day.
And burning?
I'm probably burning maybe through like actual training, 1,200 calories a day, I would say. But then there's days where, you know, I'm going out with friends and we're getting a cocktail and a pizza or a burger, or Steph and I are going on a date night. So like I try to control my diet as much as possible and
Plan for the nights out.
Yeah, and plan for the nights out, but I'm not going to restrict my life and not go do these things because I'm not able to eat the foods I necessarily have prepared or want.
Do you, I mean, here's what I do. If I go out and I go to a movie and have popcorn, do you have to have a big training day before that or after that? Does that work? Because that's how my head works.
I like to time it up like that.
Yeah, because then you feel like, well, you earned whatever, the fucking up your diet.
Yeah.
You had a good time. Now let's earn it.
Well, it's like today, you know, we knocked out that 20-mile run and did a lot of climbing on that run too. So like, after that was done and we were going for breakfast, I'm thinking like, how am I going to get more carbs and more calories in?
Right.
So it's just refueling. But yeah, I'm the same way where if we're going on a date night or we're going to have pizza or something, I'm probably going to log some extra miles that day or the next day. And it just makes me feel better. Like when you're going out and having some less quality food or more of it, because I like massive quantities of food.
Yeah, me too.
I like appetizers and small plates and the big entree, and then me and Steph share dessert. But like I like to pair that with some sort of high volume training.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I was going to ask you what mistakes most people make in that regard, or just in regard to diet. But I was going to say, I've done this before also is, yeah, I had a good training day and then I reward myself for about 4 days after that. So it's like not really, yeah, you did good one day, but that doesn't mean you can just totally eat like shit for four days. So it's like, we got to make sure that this reward is matched with effort. And I think people, you know, go to a 30-minute workout and they think they're good to go for whatever they want to eat the rest of the day.
Do you weigh yourself every day?
No, I don't.
Do you weigh yourself frequently?
Yeah. I mean, probably every few days.
Yeah, that's what I do. I weigh myself every couple days. And, you know, I'll see if I'll kind of use that as a guide to, okay, maybe I need to train more. Maybe I need to eat less. Maybe we need to go out to eat less. So I'll use that as a guide based off my goals of where we're trying to get to. In the mirror, like you can just tell when you're feeling watery and softer. It's not a good feeling.
No, that's why I look in the mirror in the mornings before I've eaten or drank anything, because you're always sucked up a little bit more in the mornings, a little better. At night, yeah, you weigh about 10 pounds more and you're full with everywhere. But yeah, so what mistake do you think people make? You know, that they want to get in shape, they want to, you know, cut some fat. Where do they screw up? Where do they lose that momentum?
I think a lot of people overcomplicate it. First off, and it's hard when you have a lot of people preaching these really extreme diets. You know, it's like you have to go keto, you have to fast, you have to go carnivore, you have to go vegan. Yeah. Meat is good, meat is bad. Seed oils are good, seed oils are bad. It's like vegetables are good, vegetables are bad. Like, holy crap, where do I get started? You know, for most people, there's so much contradicting information out there. So I think the best thing to do is, one, just find a diet that you enjoy, that's sustainable for you, that you can stick to, and you'll find results there. But then the second piece of that is, it's like the New Year's Evers, where December 31st, people like, okay, tomorrow, January 1st, and it doesn't have to be these dates, but this is an example. January 1st, I'm going to implement this new training plan. I'm going to run this many miles. I'm going to lift this many days. I'm going to throw away all this food. So December 30th and December 31st, they go and they just binge.
Right.
They get it. This is my last cheat meal, I swear. Get it all out of my system. And then January 1st, they change their entire lifestyle. It's like a 180 and it's too much. And it's unsustainable. It's restrictive. They're not enjoying it. So my biggest piece of advice is just slowly change one thing at a time. These incremental changes. Maybe the first thing you do is you start walking more, and then you start running a little bit more, and then maybe you start adding in some strength training, and then maybe you cut out alcohol.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And maybe you start drinking more water, or replacing that Chick-fil-A sandwich and fries and shake for lunch with like a Mad Greens or a Chipotle or something like that, and just making conscious, intentional decisions that kind of stack up over a longer period of time will lead to more sustainable results. But everyone wants the blueprint. Everyone wants the game plan. Give me the plan. Like, people reach out to me. What's your diet plan? Send me your meal plan. No, I don't have a meal plan, but like, I know what works for me, and I know what I enjoy, and I know what makes me feel really good. So I just kind of follow some of these principles, but I'm not dogmatic or extreme with it.
Yeah, because you'd look at you and think you were, you know, I mean, to get the results that you have, to be able to perform like you do, and then see, you know, how the muscle you carry and be able to do this, you'd think that you'd have to be like just all in, I mean, weighing everything, calculating every calorie you burned, and you're not like that?
No, I don't track my food. I did when I was dieting for this bodybuilding competition. I had to, but it's like, you know, me and Steph were on vacation last week, and she posted a picture of us eating ice cream together. And she got DMs from people who follow me saying, hold on, does Nick eat ice cream? Yeah, I eat ice cream.
Yeah.
And like, I occasionally have a cocktail with dinner when we go out, and I like a burger and fries, and I love pizza, and we get dessert sometimes. But people think I'm so extreme in terms of I have no fun. I'm super restrictive. It's like, these are the rules, and I only follow these rules. And I've met people like that before, and I don't want to be like that.
Right.
And I'm not like that.
Yeah. What what I found, I've tried a lot of the, I've done the fat adapted. I've tried the no carbs to lose weight. Like a lot of, as you know, bodybuilders do that, like when they're trying to get lean. But what I think works for me anyway, and I don't know, I'd like for you to weigh in, is meat, fruits, honey on the meat, and pretty basic. But it seems like with meat and with fruit, and there is carbs in fruit, but man, that's a nice mix.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you have good cuts of meat and pineapple and good fruit, it's like, man, that's pretty sweet.
And you're rarely gonna overindulge on those things.
Right.
You know, you make like a good steak and you get some fruit, and I like doing sweet potatoes with some Kerrygold butter. Like those are things that I'm gonna eat, and when I'm full, I'm done eating. But then there's these things like chips,
Bag of Doritos.
Where like, you ever go to a party and it's a dip party?
Yeah.
And you come in and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna try this dip. And the next thing you know, the whole like group shuffles over the dips, and you're eating dips all night, and you feel like absolute dog shit by the end of it.
Yeah.
But there's certain foods like meat, and like I love eggs, and meats that you're not going to go super hard.
Ham.
You're not going to go ham
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, people, they do want the blueprint, like you said. And it doesn't, I think another lesson you've shared is you don't have to overthink it. It's, if you're getting outside every day, if you're getting the fresh air, if you're moving around a little bit, if you're not just overindulging on things, man, that right there, that makes a big difference. Cut out alcohol and soda, you're way down the road if you do that for a while.
I do love self-experimentation though, of like trying different foods and seeing how they impact my energy or my gut or my bowels.
Yeah.
And like trying these different things. So like clear example is, and I'm a sucker for trying new things. I was on Ben Greensfield's blog the other day. He was talking about all these benefits from camel milk.
Camel milk?
Camel milk. And he had a link to this site that was selling camel milk. And I only recently started using Apple Pay, which is the most dangerous thing I've ever done. Because, what's held me back from a lot of purchases in the past is I don't have my credit card on me. Like, I'm not going to go find it. Apple Pay makes it too easy to buy. So I bought like 6 jugs of frozen camel milk. I haven't tried it yet because it just got to the house. But apparently it's good for people who can't tolerate lactose.
Right.
I can tolerate lactose. I don't have an issue with that. But it's high in vitamins and minerals, and there's been a lot of studies and research on its impact on people with autism, actually.
Really?
So I'm going to try some camel's milk.
Okay. Well, yeah, I haven't followed. Does Ben have some good stuff?
He has some really good stuff. He's
Yeah.
he's kind of more into the biohacking, human optimization space. But he's always like testing things on himself. So I love trying different ingredients before we put it into a supplement. Like before we make a supplement, I will buy every raw material on its own, and I'll test it for a period of time to see its impact before we put it into a formula. And I'll do that with diet too. Like I'll try pulling carbs down for a period of time and increasing fats and seeing how I feel, and then pulling fats down and increasing carbs. So like my diet is, I always keep protein around 225, 250 grams a day. Carbs are probably around 300 to 400 grams a day based off what I'm training for. But dietary fat is always around 130 to 160 grams of fat a day.
That's a lot of fat.
I love fatty foods. Like during my bodybuilding competition, I wasn't necessarily craving carbs. I was craving fats.
Do you think most people don't get enough protein?
Oh, for sure.
They hardly eat any protein. Like the normal person, I think, gets barely any protein, it seems like.
I was actually just having this conversation with someone last week, because we'll go to dinner with people, or I'll spend time with people, and I'm just very conscious of like how much protein they're consuming. And a lot of people are getting maybe 50 grams of protein in their diet a day.
And 500 carbs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The thing about protein, it's very satiating. So like whenever I make a meal or I'm planning a meal, the foundation of that meal is always protein. And if I can get more protein, I'm going to get more protein. And if you add protein to your plate first, that's going to make you feel fuller. longer. It's very satiating.
That's what Mark Bella said that before too. If he has his plate, he always eats a protein first. So if he gets full, it's not the protein that's not being eaten.
It's interesting. I do it the other way. I save my protein for last.
Really?
Because if it's on my plate,
You'll eat it?
I'm clearing it.
Oh, okay. I think he's worried that he just won't get it in. So he's telling people, make sure you get that protein in. So have that be the focus.
Yeah, if you put food on my plate,
Yeah.
like
It's going down.
it's going down. I never leave food on the plate.
So with your success and this whole journey, everybody's got a story from back home. How does that, like, if you go to my little hometown, I had plenty of haters coming up. Like, how has that been dealing with people who maybe aren't on board with the dream of Nick Bear, and seeing this vision and, want to bring you down? Have you had to deal with any of that?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in central Pennsylvania, a small town right outside of Hershey, and I was pretty average. I was an average athlete. I was an average student. Socially, I was just kind of average, at least from my perspective. Mm-hmm. My younger brother, I started playing sports in high school, and I had this dream of playing collegiate baseball and then going to the pros. And then my brother, who's 3 years younger than me, he got into high school. He was a stud athlete. All the newspaper articles were Preston Bear, Preston Bear, Preston Bear. He had a cheeseburger named after him in our hometown.
Really?
So that was my sign of, okay, I'm going to step down from this sports career that I'm dreaming about, and I'm going to follow nutrition in the Army. But I remember, and I've told this story many times before, but it's one that kind of will paint a picture for that question. Mm-hmm. I started the business in 2012, and I remember I was putting myself out there. I was creating content. I was asking people to try the supplements. I was building this website. I was doing photo shoots for the company. And we came back home for a weekend during summer break. And we lived about 30 minutes from downtown Harrisburg. And on the weekends, all the college kids, and especially people from my hometown, would go downtown Harrisburg to party. So me and some friends went downtown Harrisburg, and we walk into this bar, and there's this group of kids who I graduated with, but also graduated the year before me, and they're chanting BPN, BPN, BPN in the back of this bar. And at first, I thought they were actually cheering me on. Like, I had support. And I quickly realized they were laughing, and they were making fun of me. In the first couple of years of me putting myself out there and creating videos and sharing content, I mean, people thought it was a joke. People laughed. People told me, your time in the Army is coming up soon. You should probably try to find a real job. Even one of my bosses in the Army tried to tell me that when I was getting out.
Really?
He thought BPN was going to fail. So people, I love to say this, but people will always doubt you. But doubt is only dangerous when you start doubting yourself.
Right.
So let people doubt, let people hate, let people talk. But as the moment you start to believe it, you start to allow it to guide some of the decisions you make, that's when it's dangerous. That's when it's going to affect you. And that's when you're not going to be able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. But yeah, I've been experiencing those things for the last decade plus.
Did you ever doubt yourself?
Yeah, for sure. And it held me back tremendously. People start doubting you and you start to believe it. When enough people say you can't do this, or this is a joke, or you're selfish and this is stupid, you start to actually believe some of these things.
Yeah, are they right? Yeah.
Are they right? The first time I put out on the internet that I was going to run a sub 3 hour marathon, articles in forums and YouTube videos and posts of people saying Nick Bear will never run a sub 3 hour marathon. And then I went down and did it, and I ran 3:24. I missed it by 24 minutes. Then I trained for another year, and I fucking did it. And I ran 2:48. And people will still talk shit. People will still criticize. But if I would have let those people bring me down the moment I didn't do it and just give up,
Right.
I would have never accomplished some of those goals.
After that 3:24, you could have went, fuck, they were right. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And you could have quit right there. they would have quote won. How much does knowing you have those people out there doubting you push you?
It actually doesn't anymore.
No, you're past that.
Yeah, I'm not fueled by any of that anymore. I'm fueled now by the people that it's helping.
Right.
The positive.
I think that's a normal transition.
Yeah.
I think it seems like you want to prove people wrong for a long time. And then once that's over and you made it, then it's like, okay, let's focus on the shit that really matters. The people I can help.
Yeah. I don't have a chip on my shoulder. I'm not trying to prove anyone wrong at this point. And
I do. Just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. But go ahead.
Is it because of a lot of the hate?
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like I'm better with it. I don't know. It's like weird. Like I'll look at my page and you can go past all of the like, good job, good job, good job. And then you're like, wait, what's this guy saying? And then that's the one.
The loudest are always like the ones that stand out.
Yeah.
The very few loud, but I think it's natural. Mm-hmm. Like for anyone to say those comments don't bother me.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's perspective now because now I've been around it enough to know I know what this type of person is. I know they're miserable with themselves. So that's why they're saying this, just projecting whatever. So I get it, but I can still use it.
yeah.
For me, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like anybody else because if you don't even have to pay attention to it, then it's probably a healthy place to be. I like having it there, but I also like knowing in perspective that, you know, this is some fuck up who, whatever, he's trying to negatively impact me and not going to happen. It's just I'm going to use it for fuel. But I just know that by and large, what we're both doing it's a net positive. You know, you can't tell me that people aren't inspired because we see it every day.
Yeah.
And so that's what matters. You're making the world a better place, trying to make a positive impact. And, you know, I think that's a good goal. That's my goal anyway.
I think what scares me with some of the stuff that's online and on social media, because when I was younger, growing up, it wasn't a thing.
Right.
Now,
it's tough.
I was born in 1990s, so like social media started being a thing when I was in the later parts of college. Mm-hmm. But I always think back to like these people might be fathers or husbands or wives or mothers, and if they're doing this online and spreading this kind of negativity, like how are they raising these children? How are they raising and leading their household? And I mean, that's just like this downward spiral that snowballs. And
Yeah.
you start to think, how do we make a change?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I know. I do feel bad for people like that, just, you know, at the end of the day. But when you think about, it is kind of irritating, those fucking people in the bar at your hometown. You know, because how many people who had dreams others would shit on that gave up on them is what I think about. You didn't, obviously. And now you go from people chanting BPN as like sarcastic, fucking with you, to now what is BPN? Tell me how the company's doing. Isn't it like multi-million-dollar?
Yeah, it's doing great. And you know, we built it organically for those first 8 years. Mm-hmm. Just like head down, build the brand the way we want to build the brand. That's very authentic and real and raw, and the brand that we want to be a part of with products that we want to use and we want to share with other people. Only this past year and a half did I actually start building out more of I don't say corporate structure, but a professional executive team. Brought on a professional CFO.
To scale it.
Mm-hmm. I stepped down from the CEO role. I put a true operator in place. Kat Thomas is our CEO at BPN now. You know, putting a senior marketing leader in place to guide some of the strategic decisions that we're making from a creative and performance marketing perspective. So like that was only recently a layer that we added onto the business that allowed me to then focus on what I wanted to be focused on, building the brand, content, sharing the story, guiding the creative process. But there's been so many different evolutions of the business. And each chapter or evolution that I've experienced has had like a special place in my heart. You know, I remember being in our first warehouse. It was 6,000 square feet, 2017, 2018, 3 of us, like I said, and cash flow was an absolute nightmare. We didn't have any debt to leverage. We didn't have a line of credit. We didn't have terms with manufacturers, and we were growing. You know, we were growing. 2017 was the first year we did 7 figures in business, and there were days, nights where we had like $2,000 left in the bank account, and rent was due the next week, and rent was like $9,000, and I would go on our email blast and I'd send out a 20% off discount for the next 24 hours, and we make enough money to pay for rent that next week. But it was like that year that time period was so stressful. But the only way I can describe it is it felt like Christmas every single morning. I woke up, I sprung out of bed. I was excited to create content. I was excited to go in the business and just like go from 0 to 1. What do we need to do to get to where we need to be? And there was never this monumental boom, shift, blow up. But it was just this compounding consistency of building a true, authentic, and real brand and connecting with people and building this community with great products that kind of has gotten us to where we're at almost 11 years in now. I'm a big fan of compounding consistency over time. Just show up and be consistent. Just show up and be consistent. One of the things my running coach, Jeff Cunningham, says is it's better to be consistently good than occasionally great. You know, you think of the runner who wakes up every single day, goes and logs their miles, day in, day out. It's hot, it's cold, it's rainy, it's sunny. They're still going to log their miles. Then you have the other person who wakes up, they snooze, they don't go run their miles, they don't log their easy runs, but occasionally they go out and they run the fastest mile they can, or they go and sign up for a marathon and blow up, and they're occasionally great. But to be consistently good, that compounds, and that's going to get you so much further than the person who's chasing quick greatness.
Yeah. I mean, I get that 100% because there's so many people better than me 30 years ago. I just haven't quit in 30 years. So you can't help but get better on something that you do every single day. And they were way better than me on natural talent and natural gifts and ability. But yeah, it's that compounding interest day after day. Eventually you're going to get pretty good if you keep at it. So it seems like to me, you talked about all those evolutions, all those different chapters, but they're all centered around hard work, focus and hard work. You never lost focus from what I understand.
No.
I mean, you always had your eye on the prize. Like, this is what I want. And I'm just going to punch that time clock every day.
Yeah. I mean, I think I learned that from my family growing up. So my dad's side of the family, they were dairy farmers in central Pennsylvania. So I was still young when they saw the farm, but I still can remember my grandpa waking up every single morning, going to the barn, milking the cows with the kids, my dad and his brother. Every single night, didn't matter what was going on. They went, they milked the cows every single night. Extremely hardworking people. I have so much respect for the farming community, whether it's a big farm or a small farm. Those people work extremely hard. And sometimes there's things out of their control that can ruin the yield of crop or their chickens or their cows. They get sick, it gets hot, the barn burns down. But my grandpa was such a hardworking person. I watched that side of the family and the farming business, especially dairy farming business in Pennsylvania. My mom's side of the family, most of them were military. Grandfather, uncle, cousins. So growing up, seeing them come back and forth between Iraq and Afghanistan when it was super kinetic, those two different dynamics definitely shaped the person I become. And when it was happening, I wasn't very aware. I wasn't like in my senior year of high school thinking, oh, I'm learning a lot from my grandfather on this side and my grandfather from this side. And they never had to tell me what hard work was. They just showed me. And not even intentionally. I just picked up by being around. And I think that's where I learned it. And then I started implementing it through what I did in the Army, building the business, training, setting goals, chasing them down. But I'm very grateful. I'm very aware that not everyone has that opportunity, but I'm very grateful to have had that opportunity from both sides of the family to learn that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you deserve some credit too, because there's a lot of kids who would have seen that and still wouldn't have learned shit. Because with some kids, you got to say, hey, this is what it fucking takes. Do you see what's going on here? Do you see what it takes to get this done every day? This is what's expected. But it doesn't sound like that happened to you, but you still picked it up.
Yeah. I also think, and I could be completely wrong, but I think it's one of those things, you either got it or you don't. Mm-hmm. If someone has to keep telling you, can you just work a little bit harder? Like, can you just show a little bit more initiative? Can you just try a little bit more here? They're never going to get it.
Right.
That person's never going to get it. But there's certain people who have it in their DNA, in their blood, who are just workers, who are going to wake up and put it in and do what they got to do to get the job done.
Right.
And it's the consistency of it. Waking up, getting it done. Waking up, getting it done. Waking up, getting it done. I've been doing that for over a decade now to build this thing that I wanted to build. And I look back and I'm like, oh, we made some progress throughout this journey.
Well, when I went to your facility, you're still at the same place, right?
We're still there, yeah.
And it's just like, it was immaculate. It was organized. It was professional. It was everything. I was really impressed because I had also been at, I think, First Form, and they're like, they knew of you. They were talking about you. And it's like, yeah, you're not as big as First Form, obviously. But if I looked at the blueprint of both, it seems like it's just theirs is a larger version of what you're doing because you're building. They've been at it for a while.
Yeah.
But same type of philosophy, which is, by the book, clean, professional, everything done right. And I see a lot of similarities between First Form and BPN. And I was just like so impressed because, again, I hadn't seen the facility, but I knew of you, and we got a chance to run a little bit and do a podcast. And going through there, I was just like, God, this guy's focused and knows what he wants.
I appreciate that.
Like, yeah, I was super impressed, and still am.
What's the hard right over the easy wrong? Mm-hmm. So many people are constantly choosing the easy wrong, and they know it. They know they're following the wrong path. They're making the wrong decisions. They're hanging out with the wrong crowd. It's like that's only going to lead you if you keep choosing the easy wrong, expecting it to take you in a different path than it's already taking you. You're either stupid or like you're just oblivious, mm-hmm. right? But if you keep choosing the hard right is going to take more time. It's going to take more money. It's going to take more work, more resources, but it's going to take you exactly where you want to go. So just keep choosing the hard right over the easy wrong.
You mentioned your family influenced you on the hard work that you've talked about. Who, like in business, has influenced you? Or inspired you?
I don't know if there's really been anyone that has necessarily inspired me. There's been a lot of books and authors that I've mm-hmm. studied. Like Donald Miller is an author that I highly respect, and I study his work and I listen to what he has to say. Mm-hmm. Seth Godin as a marketer. I'm inspired by people like Phil Knight building Nike and some of these legacy entrepreneurs, but I haven't had necessarily a mentor of building BPN. Now, I will say that, as I started building out this executive team, my CFO, Josh Hawley, and CEO, Kat Thomas, they have winged me and they have mentored me tremendously in terms of just the intricacies of business and complexities of business. They have definitely been a mentor for me, but the way we kind of built and got to where we were at, like earlier I said, my head was down just building for 8+ years. It was really just having a vision of where we want to go and then moving towards that vision and then failing tremendously and then refining and making a new plan and then failing tremendously and refining a new plan. I mean, I made so many mistakes in the building process, but I've learned from each one of those mistakes. I've never been paralyzed by an over-analysis of decisions. I've always been pretty good, I think, at identifying a problem, making a decision, implementing that solution, and then seeing how that plays out. Maybe it was the wrong decision, but I made a decision and we moved on.
Sometimes it just takes making a decision. We'll move that direction.
Yeah.
You'll figure out if it's right or wrong. But a lot of people do get that that paralysis, like you mentioned, where they're not doing anything and nothing's happening. So sometimes it takes somebody in and just making a call.
I think having a business mentor is a really good idea, but it also depends on what are you trying to build, how are you trying to build it, and at what phase are you at. I've tried to work with different mentors over the years of building BPN that I wanted to help me get to where I wanted to be. But if they weren't willing to dive in and truly understand what we were trying to build, they didn't get it. A lot want to just apply their blueprint to your blueprint, and it doesn't work. Or they're trying to teach you things about a chapter or season you were in 2 years ago. It's not working. So what I've personally found is that if you want someone to help mentor you and get to where you want to be, bring them into the business as either a consultant or a mentor and put them on salary or a contractor pay. Let them dive into that business and learn about that business, because what they're going to help you do is learn how to make decisions that are best for your unique business, because business is so unique. Brand is so unique. The same things that work for one aren't going to work for the other. Yes, there is table stakes and there's things that are by default, things that will be effective protocols for a business, standard operating procedures for a warehouse, for example, to get certified, or legal issues, having a solid accountant, things like that, yes. But in terms of building, that's so unique.
So where do you transition from Nick Bear being the face of Bear Performance Nutrition to just BPN standing on its own?
This is something I started to do a few years ago, actually. And if you look at BPN's content or website or ads, you'll see me actually pretty infrequently. Like, I'm not all over the website. I'm not on our social all the time. I'm not in our ads, because a few years ago we started to really make that transition for scalability.
Was that hard? Because you'd been the face, and like that's how it got built up.
Oh yeah, it was hard.
Behind you, on your shoulders.
It was hard.
Yeah,
but a lot of it was bringing some athletes on the team and building out the ambassador program and getting the community more involved. One of the things we've been doing a lot recently is these things called athletic clubs. So we'll host athletic clubs in Austin. The team right now, as we speak, is in Philly at the Penn Relays, hosting an athletic club. They've been in Miami this year, Tennessee. They're going all over the country, hosting these athletic clubs, activating our community and bringing them out for a workout and introducing them to the brand and products. We're doing a lot of in real life events this year. So we've kind of positioned the brand now where it doesn't live and die based off of me.
right.
Because there's a lot of risk there. I could get hit by a car tomorrow, and that's obviously something that I don't want, but the brand doesn't want either.
Right.
So I started making that transition a few years ago. I think we're in a really good spot right now where, yes, the brand will benefit from the personal platforms I've built and the community that's been built, but it doesn't live and die based off of it anymore.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, that's part of, I think, growing any business, when the entrepreneur starts it, and then there is a point where you're like, well, okay, what's the next phase? Got to transition away from me into, if we're going to grow this thing bigger. Yeah, that's interesting.
I become very fond of the term founder, or I'm more proud of the term founder now than I was of CEO. I think a lot of founders want to hold on to the title of CEO based off of ego or control. But for me, like, I'm so proud of the term founder and being able to focus on the projects I'm working on now in the business in hiring a professional CEO. That was one of the best moves we've ever made.
Is she better than you at business?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What? How?
Kat's mind works in a very calculated and operational sense. I'm more of the brand visionary creative guy. She is very operational heavy. She's taking lead on a lot of retail accounts and building out our retail program, refining and building out SOPs and efficiencies in our warehouse, building out systems and structure to really grow and manage the team. She's in the day-to-day, down in there managing departments and people and systems, and she's really good at that. And based off her background, I mean, she was a previous founder of a company. After graduating from college, she was a trader for Goldman Sachs. She was a COO of a $100+ million medical facility organization. Then she founded a company, and then we brought her on initially as kind of an advisor, and then she joined full time. And it was like this natural progression of, hey, why don't you move into the CEO role? And I move out.
Sounds expensive with all her credentials.
I mean, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. I mean, if she's done all that, yeah. I mean, that's what you need though, because you're so close to it and you're so passionate about the brand itself. Yeah. And an operations manager or a CEO is a little more detached and can make good business decisions where maybe they just a different perspective than you're going to have as the founder.
Well, I was finding myself where, in the morning we were going out and filming a YouTube video. So we were filming from like 6 a.m. until 8, 9 a.m. And I was coming back and trying to get caught up on emails. And then we go into a podcast, for example, and that was done. And then I was trying to, do day-to-day operations of the business. And for me, it was this kind of self-awareness I had to have of, okay, I can't do both of these things. I can't create content and build awareness and dedicate 100% of my time, energy, and resources into that. And also 100% of my time, energy, resources into being the CEO. It's not fair to myself. It's not fair to the team. So that's what really triggered that decision was, if I want to do what's best for the business and the team, I have to step down from that role.
Yeah, that makes sense. How critical do you think is the content and the social media aspect of your business? I mean, is that a big driver of growing?
Yeah, 100%. It's because there's two different business models. If we really simplified this, there's two different business models you can take to build a brand. You can bootstrap it like we did. Bootstrapped it, wasn't funded by investors or private equity or anything like that. And the only option was to build loyalty and a community around the brand that was obsessed with the brand. People are getting More tattoos all over their body. They're buying the apparel and they're wearing it at their marathons. They're
all over their body, like on their penis. Did you ever see one of those?
Not yet, but
okay.
I mean, if someone does that, I'll give them a shit ton of supplements. Just don't send me a picture. Send it to Cam.
Yeah.
But we built the brand and this loyal community. We have a 75% return customer rate, high conversion.
I've heard the quality of your supplements is top notch. I mean, Tanner talks about, my boys have bought a lot of supplements from a lot of different places. He talks about that BPN has a good reputation of being high quality. So that's probably key too.
It is. I mean, there's three things. The CEO of Gymshark told me this. There's three things that will determine the growth and success of a business. It's the brand, it's the product, and it's the people. And if you get those three things right, you're going to grow that thing to massive success. That's what Gymshark has done. Awesome brand, great products, amazing people.
Right.
So that's one way to grow the business. That's the approach we took. The second way to grow a business And that's why social media is so important. It's connecting with the consumer. It's building a community. It's sharing content. It's telling stories. It's connecting it through an authentic platform. The other way is venture-backed. Company raises a couple $1 million, maybe a couple $100 million, and they keep raising money year over year over year. And they don't care about being profitable, but they have great performance marketing, and they just want to grow.
And sell?
And sell.
Yeah.
So they spend so much money to keep acquiring customers. They don't really care if those customers stay on, but they just want to grow, grow, grow.
And they pay back their venture capitalists when they sell.
Yeah. But the hard part about that is you're not building trust. You're not building community. You're not really building brand. You just have really strong performance marketing metrics. That's not the approach we took. So that's why social is so important for us. And the way that we use social is that it connects with the consumer. It connects with people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's important too. I mean, we've tried to model that also with just being authentic, sharing a lot of content, a lot of high quality content. You know, made a big investment on equipment just to, you know, before we knew we were going to be able to pay for it, I'm like, I want it to look good. You know, I want this to stand out and look professional. And then hopefully if we do a good job, then the money will come in and sponsorships and the listeners and all that.
I mean, the studio is great.
Thank you.
This whole garage is great.
Yeah. Thank you. It's, I had a good team working here and helping with everything, set it up. They're better than me. I will say, I'm impressed with your podcasting ability. How do you know, I remember I told Courtney before that I said, if somebody asks you a question that you've been asked before, say you're not answering it till they come with a fresh question. Because she gets asked a lot of like the same type of questions, you know, like, well, have you hallucinated or all this stuff. And it's like, I listened to you talk to her and I was like, God dang, frickin' Nick is good.
It's a lot of prep.
I mean, is that your secret is prep?
Yeah, I do a lot of prep and I try to think of like, one, what is the message I want to get across in this episode with this person? What do I want to pull out of this? And I try to guide the conversation to get to that point. It's definitely not an interview style. Like, tell me about this, answer. Tell me about this, answer. But it's just guiding this conversation to get this thing. Like, clear example, when we did our podcast together, when you told that story, I was like, tell me a story of like the perfect day hunting.
Yeah.
And that was an epic story. And people DM'd me all about that story. So I'm trying to think of what's going to connect with people. And a lot of times story connects with people. And I do get frustrated when I'm trying to get like something out of the conversation and guide it, and that person just won't go there.
Yeah.
So sometimes before the podcast starts, I'm like, you know, I'd love if we could dive into this because I think a lot of people would benefit from it.
Right. You kind of set it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. Courtney, again, she was here. She will not talk about herself. Like, I mean, you know, you could say, oh, how was that? You broke the course record on this race. How did that feel? And she'll talk about somebody else running or the organizer of the race. Or it's just like, no, I want to hear that you're a fucking badass and you crushed everybody. She won't say that. So it's like, there's some people who you can't lead down to any, you know, for her, she just doesn't like to talk about herself. That's a tough one.
I remember when she was on ours, I asked her a question about a race, and she goes, well, let's actually talk about your Leadville experience. Like, no.
I know.
We're not doing that.
I know. I told her that too, because like one time when she was trying to break the Colorado Trail record, she was trying to get it done in 7 days. It's 495 miles. And the record was 8 days. And so she'd been running 4 days, and I show up there, and I ran with her for 26 hours, and it was when she had to go to emergency room. I mean, she was pushed herself to the brink, you know? And I get there, she'd been running 4 days, had slept probably a couple hours, who knows, maybe not even that. And so we're in the middle of the night, and she's like, are you doing okay? How are you feeling? And I'm like, no, I'm not falling for that shit. Don't ask how I'm feeling. You're not going to trick me into this. But that's just how she is. It's like, I don't know. It's pretty endearing, and it's incredible because most people love to talk about themselves.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's, yeah, she's a tough one for a podcaster. But I mean, I was impressed because you did ask questions that I listen to all her podcasts because, you know, I'm a fan, but you have, it must be the prep because you have an ability to ask a different, maybe similar questions, but a different take on them or come from a different direction. And I've been impressed with your ability. Some of my favorite podcasts, and I call myself a professional podcast listener, have been yours.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, it sounds to me like, just like with your business, you know, put in the work because prepping is work. You got to read the books. You got to listen to interviews they've been. You got to do research on them. And I don't know, it's awesome.
I remember when I did the podcast with you, it was the same week I did a podcast with Tim Kennedy.
Yeah.
And I read both of your guys' books prior to that. So I was reading for I'm a slow reader. I was reading for nights.
Oh, man.
To prepare for those. But one of my favorite quotes, you know, the way I came across this one is my creative director, Jordan Utter. This was a few years ago. I walked into his office and he had this little sticky note in his computer and it said, "Lack of intentionality leads to a repetition of what is easiest." That was one of those quotes that as soon as I read it, I was like, wow, it's so right. How many podcasts or YouTube channels do you see pop up, or even Instagram content, that it's like following the same trend, doing the same thing, and it's because it's a lack of intentionality. Like when you're intentional with what you're creating and how you're creating it, and it's unique, that's why things blow up.
Right.
That's why things become popular. That's why your content is so engaging with so many people. It's unique. It's different. There's no one else doing it. People attract to that, and it's different. It has a competitive advantage, and it's just new. You know, there's intention behind the way it's being built.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're not authentic, and I've always said this, I hate that authentic is a word because it should be just how you are. That's like saying, like being celebrated for not being fake. It just seems weird to me. But yeah, if people don't have the passion that I have, because what I have a passion for is what I share, so it's authentic. But if you don't, it's never going to be the same because you can't duplicate something you don't care about, you know, or you can't duplicate passion or being authentic. It's just, yeah, I don't know. It's social media is been a great tool for us. You know,
it has.
I can't talk too much shit about it because, you know, we've connected through it. We've had a couple great days because of social media, and I've met a lot of great people because of it. So,
I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, right? I think like leaning back into that whole authentic piece. I had Lewis Howes on our podcast recently. He wrote a new book, and one of the things he talked about in this new book is identity foreclosure, which I found so interesting, especially for like younger people, where here's an example of what identity foreclosure could be. Someone, when they're in high school, decides they want to be a doctor. So they go to college to be a doctor, and they spend 8 years after college being able to be a practicing doctor. Now they're 12 years in before they actually can be a doctor. And by the time they become a doctor, they realize, holy shit, I hate this.
yeah,
I don't want to do this. I have no purpose or passion. But I just invested 12 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in this thing that I wanted to do.
so they feel stuck probably.
12 years ago, so they feel stuck, so they keep doing it for the rest of their life. That's identity foreclosure. So that's just being unauthentic to yourself.
Right.
That's doing yourself a disservice. It's okay to pivot. Sometimes pivoting is one step forward to take, or one step back to take 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
But you're probably gonna be a whole lot happier if you do.
Yeah, right. Well, what's your goals now? I mean, we've talked about how you got here. Where do you see yourself going now? I mean, other than being a bow hunter.
Definitely bow hunting. I'm still trying to figure this out a little bit, to be honest. Like moving into a different part of the business, I'm really focused on brand awareness, creating content, and building the brand. I want to work on special projects within BPN. So instead of having like all these duties and responsibilities, I want to plug into where I can solve issues one at a time, have these special projects and really work on those special projects, implement solutions and systems and build teams and help it grow, and then, you know, move out of that special project and move into another. That ideally is how I would operate within BPN. The podcast is a huge priority for me. And then kind of like we were talking about in the run this morning, I want to prioritize family. And if I'm being honest with myself, this will be the first time I've ever prioritized family. I used to say I prioritize family, but it's something I just said. You know, like, what are your top priorities? Family, business, fitness. It was actually business, fitness, family in that order. And now having a daughter, you know, she's 9 months old. I want to spend more time with my wife. I want to spend more time with my daughter. I want to be present when I'm home. And I want to really find that balance between, and it's hard because I'm a very ambitious person, but I want to be content with what I'm doing and who I'm with and really be present when I'm in that moment, but also be really fucking ambitious with the things I'm chasing down and working towards. And if I can figure out that balance somehow and work on those things, I think I'd be in a really fulfilling spot.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound good. How does one be content, or how does one be present? I hear people say that all the time. I'm always thinking about something, and it's just like I'm trying to listen.
Yeah,
I want to listen. I want to be present. It feels like I don't know how, because I'm always doing 1,000 different things. So how can you be present?
Here's some of the things I've done that have actually been working. This is not bullshit.
Okay.
I read this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, by Mark Comer. He's a pastor. It's a great book about just like implementing strategies and techniques into your life to actually be present. This is probably a book I'll read once a year. Highly recommended. It's a quick read or a quick audiobook. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. The second book I read, I forget what the title is, but it's about boundaries and setting boundaries. And I've just started setting more boundaries in my life. Like, I used to be super accessible all the time to anyone in the business, friends, family. If someone texted me, I had to text them right back. If someone emailed me, I had to email them right back. So I've just started saying no to more things and setting boundaries of, clear example. You know, my friends hit me up a few weeks ago to go to a bachelor party, and it's like it just didn't fit in my schedule. And to be honest, I didn't want to go.
Right.
So I just said, no, I'm not going. So just saying no to more things has helped out tremendously. And then actually just setting some boundaries for yourself. Like, one of the things I've started doing, I fail sometimes, but on my phone, I turned off where I can't access certain apps before 8 a.m. and after 5 p.m. Now, you can also click on the app and say ignore, which I've done, but I'm trying to get better at, you know, before I wake up, I'm going for my morning run, and I'm not on my phone before that. And I get back, I feed Charlie, and then I head off to the office. And then when I get home from the office at night, I'm spending time with family or making dinner. I'm actively present there, and I'm not checking my email and checking social and checking sales on our Shopify store. Those are like 3 things. Those 2 books and those kind of setting boundaries and then setting those actual physical boundaries on my phone have actually helped out a little bit. But it's also just like this mindset shift of I don't have to be accessible to everyone all the time. And through that, I can now start, like, you know, when my daughter was born, my priorities shifted pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I thought I was going through a midlife crisis. And then I read this book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. And it talks about how we think we're going through these things called crises or a midlife crisis, quarter life crisis. I thought I was going through a crisis, but we often mistake a crisis for a transition in life. And there's these small transitions that happen every 12 to 18 months in our life. You have a kid, you get a new job, you get fired, you retire, you get married, you get divorced, you move. There's all these things that happen. And what I realized when I thought I was having a midlife, quarter life crisis a few months ago, there were two massive transitions I experienced. One, Charlie was born. Two, I stepped down from the CEO role, and I was trying to navigate my next, objective in my professional career within the business. And those two big transitions felt like a crisis. So those are just some of the things that I've personally implemented and experienced. And I found that they actually work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice, because I think I hear people, like I said, say that all the time and can't really quantify what it is like you did right there. I mean, and again, it's like, what I've picked up from you is you're very thoughtful, very strategic. And yeah, I mean, I have no doubt you're going to be successful in mapping out whatever your future is and being successful at that too.
I mean, it's kind of like we talked about on the run today about potential. I thought that was I really wanted to bring this up in the podcast because I thought it was something really good we were talking about in terms of, say 20 years ago for you, what you thought your actual potential was, or what you were trying to achieve. And every week and month and year that goes by, because of hard work and consistency and it compounding, that potential just keeps pushing off to the right more and more and more. What you thought your potential was 20 years ago changes now. Now you're starting to realize, oh, my potential is so much further than I thought it was. And that's something I'm trying to apply to my life too. It's like, how do I apply that to my fitness and my health and my family and how I interact with my family and my business. And I love that kind of segment of talking about potential in that run today, because I thought it could be super interesting and relatable for a lot of people, because potential is relative for the chapter of life you're in and how long you've been working towards that ambition.
Yeah, what I said there was when we were running, if I tried to train like I do now when I was 30, I never could have done it. But that was my full potential when I was 30. Now my full potential is much higher because of that sliding scale, basically. And so, yeah, potential does change. It's not like, because most time you hear people say, well, and I've said it before, a man's greatest failure is untapped potential, right? So that's an easy saying. But that potential, untapped if you haven't done shit that is terrible. But what if you've pushed that potential higher and higher and higher, and you're always chasing it because as you said, it's a sliding scale. What was your full potential here? Who knows where it is now? And what I've been learning, and you show, more than anybody, is that what these preconceived notions of what we thought was a strength athlete or an endurance athlete, or what's the limits of the human body, they're changing all the time. And we're chasing new heights with that. And it's like, that's exciting. So maybe we don't even know what our full potential is until we get into it and actually are dedicated to what and focused on this.
I don't know if we'll ever know our full potential until we start having, I think you reach a certain age where you just can't reach, at least physical.
Yeah.
You can't physically reach a full potential anymore. You start getting old, right? It just like happens at some point. And then your mind starts going, then you're just done for.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But like, there's got to be
up to that point. Yeah.
There's got to be a point where like you can keep pushing it further and further and further. But the best part is, or I think the most important thing to realize is the earlier you get started, and the more consistent you are, the further you're going to push that potential before that time limit
right
hits.
Falls off. Yeah. No, and now, so I'm 55. So if you look at like, if my kids, they got 30 years to chase that potential. That is so long. If you stay focused for 30 fucking years, it's, and when they started much higher than me, so who knows where the hell they could go. That's what's exciting about, I don't know. I see people out there doing amazing things, and it inspires me, but I think it should inspire everybody. And you're in that category too. What you've done is, I'll admit, when you said you were going to run a sub 250, and I know you could run, but I'm like, that big fucker, is he going to run a sub 250? I don't think so. I mean, come on. And sure as shit you did. It's like, I've been proven wrong, but in a good way with you. And it's just like, it inspires me too, to be like, I was asking you about if you follow training plans for racing and different, because I never have. So I was like, you just by doing what you do inspires me to maybe look at myself and be like, God dang, could I be doing better? Could I be doing a little more like what Nick does? So it's, I thank you for that. I mean, I'm a fan. I have, looked at some of your goals and been like, is he going to be able to do that? I don't know. And then been pleasantly surprised that you did it, because I love to see people win, and you're a fucking winner, dude.
I think I've learned over the last just couple years that there's nothing that's unbelievable or unachievable if you truly, and it sounds cliche, if you just put your mind to it and you make a plan, you follow that plan, you can do it. But it's pretty fucking true.
Yeah.
If you set a plan, you set a goal, and you make a plan, you stick to that plan, you don't deviate from that plan, you might miss it, but then you revise and refine that plan, you hop back on that track and you keep working towards it. Once you realize that you can pretty much do almost anything you want, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
But so many people, they have such limited beliefs in what they can achieve. Mm-hmm. I came from this family. I grew up here. I don't have this money. I don't have these opportunities. Create them.
Right.
Create the opportunities. If you create the opportunities, it's going to get you to exactly where you want to be one day.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100% true. I've seen a lot of people, because what I say is I want to talk to outliers here. It's like, and hopefully I can learn from them, but also my listeners can learn from them. And you're a good example of that. I mean, you said you're going to have Chris Williamson on your podcast, but you listen to him. He was working in a nightclub and on some reality show, and now he's got a podcast called Modern Wisdom, where he's lumped in with intellectuals. How does one go from that setting in the UK, in some busy, small little country, basically, and then now to where he's in Austin, Texas, with a Modern Wisdom podcast talking to the great minds of today? It's like, but this theme has been proven over and over again. Chandler, walk on at Missouri Wrestling, to fighting Conor McGregor in the next fight. I mean, every guest I have has a story. So if people need to be proven this over and over again, listen to this podcast and you see that. You see these lessons, and you're the latest version of this lesson of some kid from small town Pennsylvania, and just killing it in life. With a beautiful family, a successful business, and all the accolades you've earned with your physical abilities. It's like, and serving our country. It's like, dude, I mean, I'm impressed. I value what you offer society and what you're putting out there in the world. And it's an honor to have you here and have this podcast with you. Thank you.
No, I appreciate that. It means a lot, especially coming from you. Just one I highly respect, and what you've built and the way you build it. And the way I view a lot of what you do is you know who you are and what you stand for, and you're not going to break that for anyone. And that's extremely admirable, and I respect that tremendously. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Well, how I end up these podcasts with the outliers that come is I hand them over their brand new Hoyt, and here's the bow that you shot like a pro today.
Beautiful.
To keep hammering VTM, and I can't wait for you to get home and practice with that. And man, you impressed me today, and I'm proud and honored to give you that bow to take home.
I'm excited because you know what the thing is? A few months ago, I went to buy a bow.
Yeah.
But they didn't have a Hoyt of where I went. And I knew that's what you shoot. So I didn't want to get anything else. So I got the Target. So I've had a Target sit in my garage
Nice.
for months now. But now I'm going to go crush some targets with the new bow. So I appreciate you, and big thanks and shout out to Hoyt for hooking it up.
Hoyt, did you hear that? He didn't want to buy another bow because of me.
That's the honest truth.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming to Oregon. Thanks for a great day of training. Again, you impressed me with how tough you were, how strong you are, how good a shot you were. It was everything I expected, and I'm honored that you shared the day with me.
Thanks,
Thank
Cam.
you.
I appreciate you.
Keep hammering.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They sent their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel in dirt, feeling like Cam Hanks. Oh, give me the Mars, nobody wants